Greetings everyone. Today we are going to understand human digestive system. Before we understand human digestive system, we need to understand why most of the organisms have digestive system. It is because it is the only system that is responsible for converting the complex food we eat into simplest form such that it can provide nutrients to each and every cells of our body. So in this particular video, we are going to understand how the human digestive system works and what are the parts included in human digestive system. Before we understand that, we need to understand the term digestion. Digestion is the breaking up of complex food substance into simpler substance so that they can be used by the body, which will be carried out by specific enzymes. It is the thing where it is a process where the complex food substances are converted into simplest form, and this is only possible when specific enzymes for the specific food components is present. If there are no enzymes to be existed in digestion process, it is very much impossible for the very small amount of food to be digested or to be converted into simplest form in a shorter period of time. Now here let us take an example. Carbohydrates such as starch is converted into sugars. Here, if suppose this enzyme specific to the food component starch is not present, it is impossible for starch to be converted into sugars in shorter period of time. It might take many years to convert small portion of the food components such as carbohydrates to be converted into its simplest form like sugars. And similar goes with proteins. Proteins are also converted into amino acids, which are the simplest form of proteins, only with the help of specific enzymes. If enzymes were not to be present, it is impossible for proteins to be converted into simplest form, that is amino acid, in shorter period of time. And that is why enzymes are said to be catalyst or substance that speed up the chemical reaction. When we talk about food to be the complex food to be converted into simplest form, it is occurring through a series of chemical reaction, and in this chemical reaction, enzymes plays a crucial role. If enzymes are not to be present here, chemical reaction might take a longer period of time to be completed. Now let us get deep dive into the concept. Before we understand what is human digestive system, we need to understand what are the parts included in it. The first part of digestive system is mouth, second is buccal cavity, third is pharynx, fourth is esophagus, next is stomach, next is small intestine, and the later is large intestine, which opens up into rectum, and then thereby the last part of the digestive system is anus. And we'll understand how the liver and pancreas are playing important role in human digestive system later in this video. Let us start with our first part of human digestive system, the mouth. As you can see, the mouth consisting of certain parts like teeth, we have tongue, we have palate, we have vestibule, and we have certain cavity here, which is sometimes referred to as oral cavity or buccal cavity, right? These are the parts of mouth. When we take food, it is crushed and cut by teeth and mixed with saliva such that it can be formed into wet and slippery lump called bolus. And this process is called mastication. Nothing but the food is cut into small pieces and crushed by teeth and mixed with saliva. Why it is again mixed with saliva? Such that the food can be broken down and converted into its simplest form. And this particular wet and slippery lump present in the mouth is said to be bolus, and the entire process is termed as mastication. Now we need to understand what is action of saliva. We are saying that saliva is mixed with food when it is cut and crushed. What is the action of saliva? What is its main role here? So saliva is very much important because it contains enzymes like amylase, ptyalin, which is very much important for breakdown of carbohydrates into its simplest form like maltose. And how does this saliva is released in the mouth? It is secreted by three pairs of salivary glands that are parotid glands, submandibular glands, sublingual glands. These are the major glands that are present, that are involved in the breakdown of carbohydrates. Parotid glands are of a pair, which are considered to be the largest gland among three of this. Submandibular glands, which are present on either side of the jawline, and sublingual glands, which are present below to the tongue. Apart from these three major glands, we have other small glands which are present in hundreds and thousands, which are also involved in the breakdown of food components such that it can be absorbed by our body to produce energy. The next part is esophagus. Before we understand esophagus, as you can see, there is some kind of funnel shaped tube here. It is nothing but the pharynx. Pharynx serves as a common pathway for the respiratory system and the digestive system. Pharynx is a funnel shaped structure which is present just above esophagus. Esophagus. It is a tube-like structure or pipe-like structure, right? The food that has been cut and crushed and partially digested will enter into the esophagus, and this soft food, as we know, we are terming it as bolus, is entering into the esophagus. Esophagus is also known to be food pipe, right? This food will be traveling through the esophagus, entering into the next part, that is stomach, through wave-like movements, and these wave-like movements are called peristaltic movement. How does this peristaltic movement occurs? It is because of the involuntary action of longitudinal and circular muscles. Longitudinal and circular muscles contract and relax such that the bolus will be entering into the next part or moving further into the next part, that is stomach, and that is the term peristaltic, which means it's a wave like movement, right, that is occurring because of the involuntary contraction and relaxation of longitudinal and circular muscles. So the next part is stomach. Just below to the esophagus we have stomach. At stomach, the partially digested food will be entering, and here it is churned with gastric juice and HCl. When we are using the word churned in a general manner, it is said to be stirred. The food is stirred with gastric juice and hydrochloric acid, and these are secreted or released by gastric glands present in the inner lining of the stomach. You might wonder, why does our stomach doesn't burn? Because hydrochloric acid is the strong acid which, when released, will burn the stomach, but it is not happening. Why? Because of the mucus lining which is present in the inner walls of the stomach, that is the mucous membrane, which acts as a protective barrier and protects the inner lining of the stomach. In stomach, most of the protein digestion initiates, and the food now is in the form of semi-solid condition, and it is in a form of slimy substance with some proteins and carbohydrates being digested or broken down. Now the food is termed to be chyme. We have used the term bolus when it was in mouth. Now the food is in the stomach, where the partial digestion of proteins and carbohydrates are done, and that is why we are considering it as chyme. We need to go through some other concept within this one. It is the sphincter. Sphincters are nothing but they are like gateways that will control the pathway of food from one part of the digestive system to the other. As you can see, they are mainly the circular muscles which contracts and relaxes at regular intervals of time, thereby helping the food to move from one part to the next part. And here you can see there are two sphincters present above and below the stomach region. The first one is lower esophageal sphincter, which is nothing but it is present at the end of the esophagus and at the start of the stomach, and it is considered to be the lower esophageal sphincter. The other is present near the pylorus region of the stomach, and hence the name pyloric sphincter. So pyloric sphincter here is responsible for regulating the opening of the passage, because the food has to enter into the next part such that it can be further digested. So for its further digestion, the food has to be released in small amounts. If it is entirely released, it might not be digested properly. So small amount of food, its shorter period of time, will be released from stomach to the next part through the pyloric sphincter, and the remaining, if any excess is to be entering into the next part, will be pushed back into the stomach by the pyloric sphincter. And the next part is small intestine. Small intestine is considered to be the longest part of the alimentary canal. Alimentary canal is nothing but the tube-like structure that starts from the mouth and ends at anus. And small intestine is considered to be the longest part of the alimentary canal. As you might wonder, it is the longest part of the alimentary canal, but yet it is considered to be the yet it is given the name small intestine. It is because small intestine, when is emptied or when there is no food present in the small intestine, its diameter reduces to the width of a finger, and that is why the name is small intestine. The first part of the intestine is duodenum. This part is considered to be duodenum, and the next part is jejunum, ileum. So we can say that small intestine is divided into three parts, that is duodenum, jejunum and ileum. Duodenum is the first part of the small intestine. Here carbohydrates, proteins and fats which are certainly digested or partially digested will enter from stomach to the duodenum region. Here again the further digestion of these food components is aided by the secretion of liver and pancreas. You might wonder why the secretion of liver and pancreas is entering into the duodenum region. It is because duodenum doesn't have any enzymes to digest these food components. That is why liver and pancreas secrete its juice into this duodenum. Secretion of liver is the bile juice. Bile juice mainly acts on fats and converts into simplest form, that is small globule-like structure, and the entire process is said to be emulsification. The secretion of pancreas is the pancreatic juice, which consisting of enzymes like trypsin, amylase and lipase, which will be acting on proteins and carbohydrates and fats for its further digestion. Walls of the small intestine will also secrete certain juice called intestinal juice, which will further act upon these food components to convert it into simple form. Once the digestion is complete, this digested food will be transported from the intestine through the walls of the small intestine into the blood, that is circulatory system, and the process is said to be absorption. As you can see, the inner lining of the small intestine has finger-like projection, and these are said to be villi. When the digestion of food has completed, this digested food will enter through the finger-like projection into the circulatory system and the lymph system through blood vessels and lymph vessels. The finger-like projections that are present in the small intestine is because to increase the surface level or surface area for the maximum absorption. Once a maximum absorption of food component has occurred, the remaining will be entering to the next part called large intestine. The large intestine got its name large comparing to small intestine is because of its larger diameter. Large intestine is a tube-like organ that mainly functions to absorb water, electrolytes, vitamins from the undigested food that has been passed from small intestine. The parts of large intestines are cecum, ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon and sigmoid colon. A large intestine is also known to be or also termed as colon. The partially digested food will be entering into the cecum region where most of the water and nutrients, electrons which were not absorbed in small intestine will be absorbed at this region. The remaining material will be moving through the colon and entering into the rectum, and they are stored at the rectum and later leaves the body through anus, and this process is called defecation or bowel movement.